You know the saying, give a man a fish and he eats for a day, but teach a man a fish and he eats for a lifetime. That idea is actually why our studio builds exist. Okay, here's the backstory. Back in COVID, when everything shut down, I didn't have a studio. I had one camera, a few lights, and a whole lot of time on my hands. I was helping film for my church, just trying to serve where I could. And I remember grabbing my wife, my kids, and saying, come on guys, let me show you something. Let's experiment, let's play around with all this gear. We were learning together. Not just how to shoot video, but why light works the way it does. Why sound matters, why certain images feel the way they do. And that's when it all hit me and it clicked. This isn't just about cameras, it's about passing something on. Teaching others, teaching clients, teaching creatives, teaching my own family. Not just what buttons to push, but how to actually see. Okay, so why a studio? Well, the studio space isn't just where you shoot. It's actually where you test ideas, build repeatable setups, and teach a process. A lot of people think that if you teach what you know, you're giving away all your value. But I actually think it does the complete opposite. It's like a chef who writes a cookbook. I mean, you can try the recipe at home, but when it really matters, you still go to the restaurant, you make the steak, but you still want the chef to make it for you. The studio lets us document how we work so our team, our clients, and other creatives can understand our systems and our standards. Now let's talk a little bit about how we lay out a studio. Well, first, we plan the room so it has depth and versatility, not just one background. We build 2 or 3 different walls for different uses. One wall might have a custom screen so we can project an image or an environment, whatever we want. The other side might have custom paper roll downs for clean, solid backgrounds. We also treat the room for sound using wood veneer panels with foam backing. Now this material is awesome because it does 2 things. It absorbs reverb and it also makes the space look finished and intentional. Now sound is always our first priority. You can fix a lot of things in post, but bad audio is really hard to save. We use shotgun mics on the cameras and lav mics on the subjects. That gives us redundancy and flexibility in post. That means if one mic didn't work, you know you got a backup. Everything runs through a simple signal path so we can monitor it easily and catch problems early. Sometimes we use podcasting gear and use mics there, and we use things like a Rode Podcaster to really help us dial in the audio before we even take it to post. If you ever watch a video and can't really hear or understand what's going on, that loses you faster than maybe a slightly imperfect picture or something that's not framed right. So audio, #1 priority always. There's always this great saying that you fix it in pre, because if you can fix everything before you even take it to editing, it's gonna turn out that much better. Okay, next, let's talk about the lighting. For lighting, we really focus on consistency and efficiency. We want to get things fired up quick, and we want to create different looks fast and easy. We love using Amaran and Aperture lights because we can tie everything together into a single app, Sidus Link. There's a lot of other lighting systems that work well too. Most manufacturers like Panlight and Godox and Harlow all have apps that can essentially sync all the lights in the same ecosystem together. It's not about having to go with Amaran or Aperture, but it is important to know that if you are choosing an ecosystem, pick one that has a really robust app, because that's going to save you so much headache when you mount lights and you install them, and then you go to change the color temp or the intensities. Much easier to do on an app than to climb on a step stool and do that every single time. The important thing is that all your lights are synced together, so it's super easy to adjust. We light in zones instead of just lighting faces. We always say light spaces, not faces. That means shape the whole space, not just the subject. Foundationally, we always start with a 3-point lighting system. We usually start with the key light, add a hair light, and then add an accent light for separation and depth. Keep in mind, depending on your location, your situation, your studio, you might be using more lights, you might be using less, you might even use other things like reflectors and maybe even a window to help shape some of that light. The key is knowing the principles of what flattering light looks like and then building from there. In some use cases, the lighting might have to serve a couple different purposes. For example, a key light for a single person talking heads might actually end up being a fill light for a 2-person podcast scenario, where if you see behind me right here, there's 2 lights that are essentially serving as a hair light for me, are actually cross keys for when we do a podcast in a studio like this. So again, being versatile and being creative, keeping everything tied together is super critical when it comes to lighting, because that's gonna actually give you the most versatility. Okay, now let's talk about cameras, your favorite topic. What cameras, lenses are we using? For cameras and lenses, we keep everything in the same brand ecosystem. Again, much like lighting, this just lets us keep everything consistent. We can match colors easily in the same ecosystem, and we keep the menus consistent, so you just have to learn once. Camera menus take a long time to learn, so it's better to learn one system really well than several systems kind of halfway. Most people use a studio space for a single person talking head, but they might also want to use it for an interview or for a 2-person, 3-person podcast scenario. Having a wide variety of lenses allows that to happen. Perhaps you're doing a single person talking head and you want a little bit more background separation. It's good to have some portrait focal lengths like a 50 or an 85. Maybe you typically shoot a lot of podcasts where it requires 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 cameras. It's nice to have zoom lenses that allows you to zoom out to get the whole shot, or to zoom in and get tight and isolate on your subjects. Okay, we just covered gear, but the bigger idea behind all this is that the studio isn't just showing off equipment. It's really about building and teaching systems. Once you understand the system, you can recreate it in almost any space, a garage, an office, a hotel room, or a full studio like these. The key for us is just to give the clients a little bit of taste of what is possible creatively, and using the space more as an incubator of ideas and an inspiration for creativity more than hard, fast, rigid rules and camera angles. The biggest win of any studio space is to teach the basics. Once there's a firm grasp on that, you can apply those principles to anything you'd like outside of the studio. In a follow-up video, I want to talk more about the teaching side of all this, why we focus so much on education, and where we see that going next. If that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. This is just a little look behind the curtain of how we create studios for our clients. Not just how it looks, but how it works. And if you want us to break down any part of the setup in more detail, whether it be sound, lighting, or cameras, just tell me what you'd like to see in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and share this with friends and creatives that could benefit from some of this information. That's it, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.